A Russian supply route can survive a blast, but it cannot survive forever if every bridge, fuel truck, repair crew, and bypass road is being watched. That is the danger now growing around Crimea. Ukraine says its forces have struck 2 railway bridges near Rozdolna and Vladislavivka. At first, this may sound like another attack on infrastructure. But in modern war, a damaged bridge can be as powerful as a destroyed one because it slows trains, redirects convoys, and forces commanders to move under pressure. Crimea is not just a political symbol for Moscow. It is one of Russia's key military gateways into southern Ukraine. Fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and reinforcements all depend on routes that now look less safe than before. And this is why the story matters. Ukraine may not be trying to cut Crimea with one dramatic blow. It may be doing something slower and more dangerous, making every Russian supply move harder to hide, harder to protect, and harder to complete. Before we go deeper, subscribe to Military Force, because this is the kind of battlefield shift that can change a war before the front line even moves. Ukraine is expanding its campaign against Russia's military logistics system in Crimea, and the latest reported targets show how serious this pressure has become. Defense forces struck 2 railway bridges near Rozdolna and Vladislavivka. These are not random pieces of infrastructure. They sit inside a transport network that helps Russia move supplies across the occupied peninsula and toward the southern front. When a railway bridge is hit, the damage is bigger than the concrete, metal, or track. It can disturb a schedule, slow a shipment, delay a repair team, and force military cargo onto less efficient routes. This is why the strikes must be seen as part of a wider operation. Ukraine is not simply trying to create one explosion for the cameras. It is trying to weaken the system that keeps Russian units supplied. Every army needs fuel, ammunition, spare parts, food, engineering tools, and replacement vehicles. These items do not appear at the front by themselves. They move through rail lines, road hubs, loading points, depots, bridges, and transfer areas. If that chain becomes unstable, the troops at the front may still fight, but they do so with less certainty behind them. Railway bridges are especially valuable because rail transport can move heavy military loads in large volumes. A single train can carry more cargo than many trucks. It can move artillery shells, fuel containers, armored vehicles, repair equipment, and construction material for damaged positions. For Russia, this matters because long wars depend on steady movement. Tanks can be powerful, but they become useless without fuel. Guns can fire for hours, but only if shells keep arriving. Air defense batteries can protect a site, but they also need missiles, radar parts, and generators. If a railway route is damaged, Russia may try to shift cargo onto road transport. That gives Moscow another option, but it also creates new problems. More trucks mean more fuel use. Longer road movement means more drivers, more maintenance, and more exposed convoys. Traffic can build up near bridges, checkpoints, and temporary crossings. Those delays create patterns, and patterns are dangerous in a war where drones can watch from above. Crimea plays a major role in this picture. For Moscow, the peninsula is more than a political symbol. It is a military platform linked to the Kerch Bridge, eastern Crimea, and the occupied areas of southern Ukraine. Supplies moving through Crimea can support Russian activity near Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, and the wider land corridor along the Sea of Azov. That makes the transport network inside the peninsula a high-value target. The deeper issue is stability. A damaged bridge may be repaired. A closed route may reopen. A convoy may still reach its destination after taking a different road. But if several parts of the same network are hit again and again, Russia must spread its resources thinner. Engineers must repair. Guards must protect. Traffic controllers must redirect movement. Air defense units must cover more locations. Commanders must plan for delays before an operation even begins. This is how modern warfare can slow an army without meeting it directly at the front line. Ukraine can strike the rear, and the effect may appear hours or days later in another area. A Russian unit may receive less fuel than expected. A repair vehicle may arrive late. A planned movement may be postponed because the route is under watch. These are quiet problems, but they can shape the pace of a campaign. That is why the geography now matters so much. To understand the real weight of these strikes, we need to look at where Rozdolny and Vladislavivka sit inside Crimea's military supply map. Rozdolny and Vladislavivka matter because they sit on different sides of Crimea's military supply map, and that makes the pressure more dangerous for Russia. Rozdolny is linked to the northern and northwestern part of the peninsula. This area matters because it faces the routes leading toward occupied southern Ukraine. From there, Russian transport can support forces closer to Kherson, the land corridor, and other positions near the lower Dnipro region. If a bridge in this zone is damaged, the effect is not limited to one local rail crossing. It can disturb movement between Crimea and the ground routes that Russia needs to keep its southern grouping connected. Vladislavivka has a different role. It is located in the eastern part of Crimea, near transport lines that connect with the direction of Kerch. That makes it important in another way. The Kerch Bridge remains one of Russia's most important links to Crimea. It carries political meaning, but it also has deep military value. It helps connect Russian territory with the peninsula, and from there, supplies can move farther west or south depending on the operational need. This is why these two locations should not be seen as isolated names on a map. Rozdolny points toward the northern access routes. Vladislavivka points toward the eastern connection with Kerch. When both areas come under pressure, Russia has to think about more than one broken section of track. It has to protect the shape of the entire supply system. For many viewers, the easiest way to understand Crimea is to imagine it as a military hub with several doors. One door is in the east, where Kerch connects the peninsula to Russia. Other doors are in the north, where roads and railways connect Crimea with occupied areas of southern Ukraine. Inside the peninsula, rail lines and roads move cargo between these entry points, storage sites, military bases, and forward routes. If Ukraine can threaten more than one door at the same time, Moscow loses freedom of movement. That loss of freedom can be more damaging than it first appears. A commander does not only ask whether a train can move, he asks whether it can move on time, with enough cargo, through a safe route, and without exposing the next shipment. If one line is uncertain, the schedule changes. If two lines are at risk, transport officers must plan around possible delays before the cargo even leaves the depot. Speed is the key issue here. In a war of artillery, drones, armor, and long front lines, supply speed can decide what a unit can do tomorrow morning. A delayed fuel shipment may slow a planned rotation. A late load of shells may reduce fire support. A repair train stuck behind a damaged bridge may leave broken equipment waiting longer than expected. None of these problems needs to look dramatic on video, but each one can reduce combat power over time. The repair process also creates a new problem. When a bridge is hit, Russia must send engineers, machines, guards, and materials to the site. That activity is visible. It creates movement where Ukraine may already be watching. A repair crew can fix damage, but it also becomes part of the same military pattern. Trucks arrive, security units deploy, temporary equipment appears. The area grows busier, and a busier target is easier to study. This is why the geography of Rozdolny and Vladislavivka matters so much. They show that Ukraine is not only looking for targets that explode, it is looking for pressure points that can change how Russia moves across Crimea. One strike can create a repair task. Repeated pressure can create a planning crisis. And that crisis does not stop at the rail lines. It reaches the northern gates of Crimea, where Chonhar, Henichesk, and Armyansk have already become part of the same logistics problem. The pressure around Chonhar, Henichesk, and Armyansk shows that Ukraine's campaign is reaching the northern gates of Crimea, not just separate railway points inside the peninsula. These areas matter because they control movement between Crimea and the occupied land corridor in southern Ukraine. Chonhar is one of the most direct routes toward the mainland. Henichesk links Crimea with the Arabat-Spit direction. Armyansk sits near the narrow northern entrance of the peninsula. Together, they form a set of gateways that Russia needs for road traffic, military movement, fuel delivery, and emergency rerouting. If one gate is damaged, Russia may still use another. If several are under pressure, the whole map becomes harder to manage. This is the real danger for Moscow. A single damaged bridge can be treated as a repair problem. Several stressed routes become an operational problem. Convoys may have to move farther than planned. Drivers may need to wait before crossing. Military police may have to control traffic near narrow sections. Engineers may be sent to build temporary access roads. Fuel consumption rises because trucks spend more time moving, idling, or taking longer paths. The route may still function, but it no longer works with the same speed or confidence. Reports from battlefield watchers suggest that Russian forces have started building bypass roads, reserve embankments, and support works near damaged bridges. This does not mean Russia has lost all access. It means Moscow is preparing for more disruption. That is an important difference. Backup routes are useful, but they are also a sign that the original arteries are no longer trusted. An army does not build extra crossings beside key bridges unless it believes those bridges may become unsafe, overloaded, or unusable at a critical moment. Temporary solutions can keep traffic alive, but they usually come with limits. Pontoon bridges can help vehicles cross water, yet they are slower and more fragile than permanent structures. Dirt crossings may move light traffic, but heavy trucks, fuel tankers, and military equipment place much greater stress on them. Bad weather can turn soft ground into mud. A narrow bypass can create a bottleneck. A crowded waiting area can reveal patterns. In a drone war, a traffic jam is not just an inconvenience. It is a target picture forming in real time. This is why the pressure on Crimea's northern routes is different from a normal bridge attack. Ukraine does not need to stop every vehicle. It only needs to make the system more tense. A convoy that takes an extra hour may miss a transfer window. A fuel truck forced onto a smaller road may need stronger protection. A repair team sent to one crossing cannot be used somewhere else at the same time. Small delays begin to stack together, and over days or weeks, they can change the rhythm of supply. For Russian forces in the south, that rhythm matters. Units near Kherson or Zaporizhzhia do not only need supplies eventually, they need them at the right time, in the right amount, and through routes that commanders can trust. If the northern gates of Crimea become slower, narrower, and easier to observe, the pressure will move forward from the bridges to the battlefield itself. That is why Russia's next response is not only about fixing roads, it is also about protecting the fuel convoys that now have to travel through this more dangerous network. Russia's decision to escort fuel tankers with mobile fire teams shows that Ukrainian drones are turning logistics routes into a new front line. A fuel truck is not just another vehicle on the road. It carries movement. It carries the ability of tanks to leave cover, armored vehicles to reach assault positions, artillery tractors to tow guns, and generators to keep command posts alive. If that fuel does not arrive, a Russian unit may still have weapons, but it loses the power to use them at the right moment. That is why these tankers have become targets with real battlefield value. In earlier phases of the war, many fuel movements were treated as rear area activity. They were dangerous, but they were not always protected like combat columns. Crimea is now different. The roads that connect storage sites, repair yards, bridges, and staging areas are under closer observation. A convoy can be seen before it reaches a crossing. Its speed can be measured. Its direction can be mapped. Its stop points can be studied. In a drone war, movement itself becomes a signal. The use of armed escorts tells us how much pressure Russia is feeling. Mobile fire teams can ride along highways, position themselves near key stretches, or move with fuel trucks as they pass through exposed areas. Their job is simple in theory. Watch the sky, detect small drones, and try to shoot them down before they strike. But the battlefield is not simple. FPV drones are fast, low, and hard to see. Reconnaissance? UAVs may stay farther away. Strike drones can arrive from an angle the escort did not expect. This creates a hard cost for Moscow. Every escort group needs trained men, vehicles, ammunition, radios, fuel, and coordination. If Russia assigns protection to one convoy, those same resources cannot guard another bridge, depot, repair crew, or road checkpoint at the same time. The security burden grows with every route that becomes unsafe. A supply line that once needed drivers and traffic control now needs armed cover, air defense awareness, and constant warning. Ukraine does not have to destroy every tanker to create an effect. A single strike, or even the fear of one, can change how Russia plans movement. Convoys may travel at night. Drivers may avoid direct roads. Commanders may split shipments into smaller groups. Some trucks may wait for protection before moving. These decisions reduce risk, but they also reduce speed. In a war of long distances and heavy firepower, slower logistics can quietly weaken the force that depends on them. Fuel has a special role in this pressure campaign because it connects the rear area to every active mission. Without steady fuel, evacuation vehicles move less often. Engineering machines clear fewer obstacles. Air defense systems may struggle to relocate. Artillery units may stay in place longer, which makes them easier to track. Even small shortages can force commanders to choose which unit moves first and which unit waits. That is the deeper meaning of armed fuel escorts in Crimea. They are not only a defensive measure, they are a sign that Russia's rear area is losing some of its safety. The line between front and back is becoming thinner, and drones are making that line harder to defend. This pressure raises a larger question. What kind of Ukrainian drone system is strong enough to make Russia protect its fuel like a combat asset? Ukraine's drone buildup in 2026 explains why the pressure on Russian logistics can now spread beyond one bridge, one convoy, or one road. According to Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine has increased the purchase and production of several unmanned systems this year. The focus includes fiber optic drones, reconnaissance UAVs, medium-range strike drones, and ground robotic systems. This mix matters because each tool plays a different role. One system finds the target. Another follows movement. A strike drone hits from distance. A ground robot can work in places where sending soldiers would be too risky. This is how a logistics campaign becomes continuous. A bridge strike may begin the problem, but drones can keep the pressure alive after the explosion. Reconnaissance UAVs can watch repair activity. Medium-range drones can reach deeper support areas. Fiber optic FPV drones can operate better in heavy electronic warfare because they do not depend on the same radio link that can be jammed. Ground robots can support movement, carry supplies, scout dangerous zones, or help units work under threat. Together, they create a wider system, not just a collection of weapons. For Russia, this is difficult because logistics needs routine. Military transport works best when routes are predictable, schedules are stable, and commanders know which road or rail line will carry the next load. Ukraine is trying to break that routine. If a storage site is seen, it can be marked. If a repair crew moves, it can be followed. If a convoy takes a new road, that road can become part of the target map. The danger is no longer only the strike itself. The danger is being watched before the strike arrives. Fedorov has argued that drone operations are cutting Russia's ability to supply Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine. That claim fits the larger pattern of the war. Ukraine is not only looking for dramatic explosions. It is building a chain of pressure. First comes detection, then comes tracking, then comes selection of the most valuable point, such as a bridge section, a fuel vehicle, a depot, or equipment needed for repair. After that, the same area can be watched again to see how Russia responds. This is important for the whole southern front. If Crimea becomes slower as a military hub, the effect can move toward Kherson, Zaporizhia, and the land corridor near the Sea of Azov. A Russian unit does not need to be fully cut off to feel the pressure. It only needs to receive fuel later than planned, get fewer spare parts, or wait longer for heavy cargo. These small problems can reduce the tempo of attacks, limit movement, and force commanders to save resources for the most urgent missions. The strategy is not built around one perfect hit. It is built around repeated friction. Ukraine can damage a route, observe the repair effort, strike supporting vehicles, and then force Russia to move through a less efficient path. Each step may look small by itself, but together they make the logistics network more expensive to run. More guards are needed, more trucks are used, more time is lost, more fuel is burned before it even reaches the unit that needs it. Russia is unlikely to lose all access to Crimea in a short period, because Moscow still has alternate routes, engineering units, and defensive measures. But that is not the only measure of success. In a war of attrition, the goal can be to make every supply movement slower, more visible, and more costly. If Ukraine can keep that pressure steady, Crimea may remain connected on the map while becoming much harder to use as a safe military base. That is why this campaign matters beyond the peninsula itself. It may shape how fast Russia can fight in the south, how much it can move, and how long it can sustain pressure before logistics begins to decide what the front line can do. Ukraine's campaign in Crimea is showing that logistics can be weakened without one single decisive strike. A bridge can still stand and still become a problem. A road can stay open and still lose its value. What matters is the cost Russia must pay to keep supplies moving. When rail lines need repair, fuel trucks need escorts, and temporary crossings carry more traffic, the rear area begins to feel like the front. This is where the pressure becomes strategic. Russia does not need to lose every route for its system to suffer. It only needs to spend more time, more fuel, more air defense cover, and more engineering resources to keep those routes alive. Each extra checkpoint, each damaged crossing, and each delayed convoy adds friction to the wider war effort. Every shipment becomes a decision. Every delay can reduce the speed of a later operation. For Ukraine, this is not only about hitting targets. It is about shaping the battlefield before Russian units reach it. Drones, scouts, and unmanned systems are turning movement into exposure and exposure into risk. Russia may still move supplies into Crimea, but it may have to do it slower, with more protection and under closer observation. In a long war, that difference matters. A force that cannot move freely cannot attack freely, and a supply network that must constantly defend itself begins to lose its original purpose. This is why Crimea remains more than a symbol. It is a military hub, a supply corridor, and a pressure point at the same time. If you want to keep following battlefield changes like this, subscribe to Military Force for clear analysis of war, weapons, and global politics.